Let me tell you all something today. God is in the business of exposing narcissists. See, there's a whole lot of folks out here running around thinking they can lie, cheat, manipulate, and treat people any kind of way like God ain't watching. Oh, but let me tell you something. He sees everything. No lie lasts forever. That's one thing you can always count on. See, people who operate with deception think they're in control. They think they can manipulate situations, twist the truth, and get away with anything just because for a while it seems like they do. They smile in your face, tell you what you want to hear, and convince you there's something they're not. And for a moment, they actually believe they're untouchable. They believe their web of lies is so tight, so well woven, that nobody, not even God himself, can break through it. But here's the reality. God sees everything. He sees what they do behind closed doors. He hears the conversations they think nobody knows about. He watches as they deceive, manipulate, and control, all while convincing themselves that they're in charge of their own destiny. What they don't realize is that God has a divine timeline for truth to be revealed. See, when people operate in lies, they do it because they think it gives them power. They feel smart. They feel ahead of the game. And because things don't immediately fall apart for them, they take it as confirmation that they're getting away with it. But what they fail to understand is that God is strategic. He will allow people to run their course, to build up their empire of lies, to get comfortable in their false reality, only to let it all come crashing down at the perfect time. He will allow them to keep fooling people until they reach the point where their arrogance blinds. They get so confident in their own deception that they stop being careful. Because here's the thing, deception takes effort. You have to keep track of your lies, manage your manipulation, and constantly adjust your mask. But eventually, nobody can keep up that act forever. They will slip up. They will overplay their hand. They will tell one lie too many. And that's when God steps in. The exposure doesn't always happen in the way we expect. Sometimes it's a dramatic public downfall. Other times it's a slow unraveling where the truth starts leaking out piece by piece. People who once believed in them begin to doubt. The ones they deceive start connecting the dots. Their carefully built facades to crack, and before they know it, their lies have caught up with them. And let me tell you something, there's no worse feeling for a narcissist than realizing they no longer have control. Because when God starts exposing them, it's not just about people finding out the truth. It's about stripping them of the very power they thought they had. And that's where God's justice comes in. See, we often think justice means immediate punishment, but God doesn't always work that way. Sometimes his justice looks like patience. Sometimes he lets people dig their own grave. He lets them rise higher and higher, thinking they're untouchable, just so their fall will be even harder. Because when they fall, it won't be subtle. It won't be a small mistake that they can cover up. It will be undeniable. They will be forced to face the truth, not just the truth about what they did, but the truth about themselves. And that's the real punishment. Because a narcissist's greatest fear is not losing people. It's not even losing power. It's being seen for who they really are. God has a way of making sure everything done in the dark comes to light. It may take time. It may seem like they're getting away with it, but trust and believe there is no deception that can outrun God's timing. And when he decides it's time for the truth to come out, nothing and no one will be able to stop it. Karma is one of those things people don't take seriously until it's knocking on their front door. See, narcissists move through life thinking they can do whatever they want with no consequences. They lie, manipulate, and hurt people, fully believing they will never have to answer for their actions. And for a while, it seems like they're right. They get away with things. They deceive people, step on others to get ahead, and walk away from situations completely untouched, while the people they hurt are left to pick up the pieces. But what they don't understand is that karma is not about immediate payback, it's about divine timing. God doesn't always strike people down the moment they do something wrong. He doesn't always deliver instant consequences. And that's what fools a lot of narcissists into thinking they're invincible. They assume that because nothing bad is happening to them right now, they're safe. They mistake delayed consequences for no consequences at all. But what they fail to realize is that God moves strategically. He lets people think they're getting away with things, not because he's ignoring them, but because he's setting them up for the exact lesson they need to learn. And when karma finally arrives, it doesn't just show up, it shows out. A narcissist's greatest weakness is their own ego. Their pride convinces them that they're untouchable, so they continue to push boundaries. They go from small manipulations to bigger betrayals, from minor lies to full-blown deceptions. And all the while, they keep convincing themselves that they are in control. But that's the trap. That's the setup. See, when people think they are unstoppable, they stop being careful. They get sloppy. They start believing their own lies so much that they forget who's really in charge. And that's when God lets the trap close in on them. Karma doesn't always hit where people expect it. Sometimes it's not about them losing money or status. Sometimes it's about them losing credibility, losing the people who once looked up to them, losing the ability to manipulate and control like they used to. And sometimes the worst karma is when they finally see who they really are and realize that no matter how much they tried to convince the world otherwise, they were never as powerful as they thought. The hardest part for most people is watching narcissists live their best life while they themselves are suffering from the damage left behind. It feels unfair. It feels like justice is taking too long. But that's the thing about God's timing. It's about when we want it. It's not when it's most people rise higher just so their fall will be greater. Sometimes he waits until they've built their whole world on lies, just so he can knock it all down in a way that leaves them with nowhere to run and no one to blame but themselves. And when it happens, it's never just about punishment. It's about revelation. Because karma isn't just about giving people what they deserve. It's about making sure they understand why it's happening. And when that lesson comes, there is no running from it. There is no talking their way out of it. Because when God decides it's time for someone to reap what they've sown, there is no power, no manipulation, and no lie that can stop it. A narcissist's greatest weakness is their own ego. Their pride convinces them that they're untouchable, so they continue to push boundaries. They go from small manipulations to bigger betrayals, from minor lies to full-blown deceptions. And all the while, they keep convincing themselves that they are in control. But that's the trap. That's the setup. See, when people think they are unstoppable, they stop being careful. They get sloppy. They start believing their own lies so much that they forget who's really in charge. And that's when God lets the trap close in on them. Karma doesn't always hit where people expect it. Sometimes it's not about them losing money or status. Sometimes it's about them losing credibility, losing the people who once looked up to them, losing the ability to manipulate and control like they used to. And sometimes the worst karma of all is when they finally see themselves for who they really are and realize that no matter how much they realize, charm world otherwise, they were never as powerful as they thought. The hardest part for most people is watching narcissists live their best life while they themselves are suffering from the damage left behind. It feels unfair. It feels like justice is taking too long. But that's the thing about God's timing. It's not about when we want it. It's about when it's most effective. Sometimes he lets people rise higher just so their fall will be greater. Sometimes he waits until they've built their whole world on lies just so he can knock it all down in a way that leaves them with nowhere to run, no one to blame but themselves. And when it happens, it's never just about punishment. It's about revelation. Because karma isn't just about giving people what they deserve. It's about making sure they understand why it's happening. And when that lesson comes, there is no running from it. There is no talking their way out of it. Because when God decides it's time for someone to reap what they've sown, there is no power, no manipulation, and no lie that can stop it. A narcissist's entire existence is built on illusion. They wear masks so convincingly that they fool the people around them and sometimes even themselves. They shape-shift, becoming whatever they need to be to get what they want. To some, they are charming. To others, they are victims. To the world, they are successful, kind, and misunderstood. But underneath all of that, there's an entirely different person. And no matter how well they play their role, the mask will always fall off. At first, everything seems perfect. Narcissists know how to make an entrance. They come into people's lives with energy, excitement, and a carefully crafted personality that makes them seem too good to be true. They say all the right things, do what they need to do, earn trust, and make people feel special. But none of it is real. It's a performance, a well-rehearsed act designed to pull people in and keep them under control. They thrive on admiration, attention, and power, and as long as they can maintain the image they've created, they feel untouchable. But what they don't realize is that no one can wear a mask forever. See, the problem with living a lie is that it takes effort. You have to constantly remember the stories you've told, the personas you've created, and the manipulation tactics you've used. It's exhausting. And the bigger the lie, the harder it is to maintain. Over time, cracks start to form. Maybe they slip up and contradict something they said before. Maybe they get too comfortable and reveal a side of themselves they never meant for anyone to see. Maybe they start losing control over the people who once believed in them. And that's when the unraveling begins. What's worse for them is that once the mask starts slipping, they can't put it back on the same way. They can try to do damage control, spin the narrative, and manipulate people into believing in them again, but it's never quite the same. Some people may still believe their lies, but others will have seen too much. And once the illusion is broken, it's only a matter of time before the whole thing crumbles. The thing about truth is that it doesn't stay hidden forever. Narcissists believe they can control reality, but reality has a way of correcting itself. The truth always finds a way to reveal itself, and when it does, there is no mask in the world that can hide it. No matter how long they've gotten away with their deception, no matter how many people they've fooled, eventually their own actions will be the very thing that exposes them. Sometimes we hold on to people not because they are good for us, but because we are afraid to let go. We make excuses for their behavior. We convince ourselves that they will change. We tell ourselves that we can fix them, that if we just love them harder, if we just try a little more, if we just give them one more chance, things will be different. But what we fail to realize is that some people are not meant to be in our lives forever. Some people come into our lives as lessons, not blessings. And when we are too weak to walk away, God steps in and removes them for us. At first, it doesn't feel like protection. It feels like pain. It feels like betrayal. It feels like losing something you thought you needed. You pray for clarity, but all you feel is confusion. You ask for strength, but all you feel is brokenness. You wonder why God would take this person away when you cared so much about them. But what you don't see in that moment is that God is saving you from something you were never meant to carry. Narcissists have a way of making people dependent on them. They create cycles of manipulation, making you question yourself, your worth, and your reality. One day they love you, the next they make you feel like you're not enough. They pull you close just to push you away. And every time you think you've had enough, they find a way to pull you back in. It's an emotional roller coaster, and the longer you stay on it, the harder it is to get off. But God sees what you don't. He sees the damage being done. He sees the way your heart is being broken over and over again. He sees the way your spirit is being drained. And when he knows you are too deep to save yourself, he does what you are too afraid to do. He removes them. And when it happens, it won't always make sense. Maybe they suddenly walk out of your life without warning. Maybe their true colors get exposed in a way you can't ignore. Maybe they betray you so badly that even you can't find a way to justify it. Whatever it is, it will be undeniable. And as much as it hurts, it is God's way of saying, enough, you deserve better. But the problem is, we don't always see it that way. Instead of thanking God for the escape, we chase after the very thing he removed. We try to reopen doors he closed for a reason. We try to hold on people who were only meant to be temporary. And in doing so, we prolong our own pain. Because when God removes someone from your life, it's not a mistake. It's not an accident. It's protection. One day you will look back and understand. One day you will see that what you thought was a loss was actually a rescue. One day you will realize that the very thing you were crying over was the thing holding you back from your true peace, your true joy, and your true purpose. But until then, Trust that if God took them away, it was for a reason you may not understand now, but one day you will die. When God starts elevating you, not everyone can come with you. That's one of the hardest lessons to accept. See, we have this idea that when we grow, when we succeed, when we step into our blessings, the people we love will be happy for us. We think they will celebrate with us, that they will be proud, that they will support us every step of the way. But that's not always the case. Because when God starts taking you higher, some people start revealing who they really are. And sometimes that revelation is painful. There are people in your life right now who only like you as long as you're on their level. They only support you as long as you're struggling, as long as you need them, as long as you're not a threat. But the moment you start growing, the moment you start healing, the moment you start stepping into the person God created you to be, their energy changes. The same people who once clapped for you will start getting quiet. The same people who said they had your back will suddenly be too busy. And the ones who once cheered for you will be the ones secretly hoping you fail. That's because some people were never meant to be part of your next chapter. They were comfortable with the old you, the one who doubted themselves, the one who played small, the one who didn't fully know their worth. But when you start stepping into who you truly are, when you start walking in your purpose, when you start believing in yourself the way God believes in you, some people can't handle it. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your elevation exposes their stagnation. See, a lot of people don't mind seeing you do well as long as you're not doing better than them. The moment you start surpassing them, the moment you start making moves they never had the courage to make, they start resenting you. But it's not really about you. It's about what your success reminds them of. It reminds them of the dreams they gave up on, the opportunities they were too afraid to take, the growth they never allowed themselves to have. And instead of looking in the mirror and asking themselves why they stayed the same, it's easier for them to turn their frustration toward you. But here's the thing, when God elevates you, He also eliminates the people who can't handle it. Will start removing relationships that no longer serve you. He will start revealing the ones who were never truly for you, and as much as it hurts, it's necessary. Because you can't take dead weight into your destiny. You can't step into your purpose while still trying to drag people who were never meant to come. And if you try, you will only slow yourself down. Some of you are wondering why certain friendships are falling apart, why certain people are acting different, why certain relationships are becoming distant. It's not random. It's not by accident. It's God making room for what's next. He is removing distractions. He is cutting ties with people who were only meant for a season. He is clearing your path so that nothing and no one can block what He has planned for you. And you have a choice. You can either fight to hold on to what's already leaving, or you can trust that if God is taking people out of your life, it's because He's about to take you somewhere they were never meant to go. You don't have to beg for loyalty. You don't have to convince people to support you. You don't have to dim your light to make others comfortable. Because the ones who are truly for you will never be threatened by your growth. They will never resent your success. They will never try to hold you back. So when people start falling away, let them. When certain relationships end, accept it. When people switch up on you, don't chase them. Because when God is elevating you, the last thing you want to do is hold on to people who are only meant for where you used to be, not where you're going next. When God exposes a narcissist, it's not just about revealing their lies to the world, it's about giving you the clarity you need to finally break free. See, when you're dealing with a narcissist, they don't just manipulate you, they manipulate your perception of reality. They make you question yourself, your emotions, and even the things you know deep down to be true. They twist situations in their favor, always making themselves the victim while making you feel like the problem. And because they are so good at it, you start doubting your own judgment. You start wondering if maybe you're overreacting, if maybe you're being too sensitive, if maybe you're the one who needs to change. But when God decides to expose them, He does it in a way that removes every ounce of doubt. At first, you may not want to believe it, because when you have invested so much time, energy, and love into someone, the last thing you want to accept is that they were never who you thought they were. It's painful to realize that the person you defended The person you gave chance after chance, that person you believed in was deceiving you all along. But God is merciful, and he loves you too much to let you stay blind forever. So he will reveal the truth in a way that you can't ignore. Maybe it's through a slip-up, a moment where they expose themselves without even realizing it. Maybe it's through an undeniable betrayal, something so blatant that you can't explain it away. Maybe it's through a series of events that force you to see them for who they truly are, not who you wanted them to be. And when it happens, you will feel a mix of emotions: anger, hurt, sadness, even relief, because on one hand, it's painful to face the truth. But on the other, it's freeing, because once you see a narcissist for who they truly are, you can never unsee it. Once you recognize the patterns, once you understand the manipulation, once you finally acknowledge that they were never going to change, something shifts inside of you. The hold they had on you starts to break. The guilt they made you feel begins to fade. The power they once had over you starts to weaken. But here's the thing: just because a narcissist is exposed doesn't mean they will take accountability. In fact, most of the time they won't. Instead of admitting the truth, they will double down on their lies. They will try to spin the story, make themselves the victim, and blame everyone but themselves. They will try to gaslight you into thinking that what you saw, what you felt, and what you experienced wasn't real. And if they can't control you anymore, they will try to control how others see you. They may spread lies about you, turn people against you, and do everything in their power to make sure they still look like the good guy.